two vehicles in my life, a 1998 Ford Ranger and a 2011 Ford Focus. And I got so much hardship with both. I was just excited to be able to drive a car around, but to all my friends, that wasn't enough. Because it wasn't a Chevy or a Dodge or a Chrysler, it was a Ford. I was so annoyed that I wanted to do my own research. Henry Ford's creations made life as we know it possible by making mass production and industry use in creating an affordable car. I have been researching this topic for the past month, and I have a good grasp on how Henry Ford and even the rivalry between Ford and Chevy has shaped us today. Today I will inform you about Henry Ford and everything he has done for life today. First, we will talk about Henry Ford's life. Secondly, Ford's creations, and lastly, Ford's rivalry with Chevy. Henry Ford was born in 1863 and died in 1947. According to James J. Flink of A&B.org, published February 1999 and accessed March of 2020, Henry Ford had many jobs, most of them being mechanics jobs or working with machinery, until he got a job at Edison Illuminating Company in 1891 as an engineer, making $100 a month. In 1888, Henry married Clara Bryant and had their only child, Edsel Bryant Ford, in 1893. According to the Salem Press, published in 1999 and accessed March of 2020, Henry Ford started by building motorized carriages out of his shed. According to James J. Flink of A&B.org, published February 1999 and accessed March of 2020, people saw Ford's motorized carriages, and the shareholders got together with Ford and started the Detroit Motor Company in August of 1899 with only $15,000. The company went bankrupt by November of 1900, only making about a dozen automobiles. Ford then made the Ford Motor Company in 1903, where he started by making the Model A. Henry Ford lived a long, successful life. Let's see what he accomplished in his life. Henry Ford mainstreamed the assembly line in 1907. According to the Salem Press, published in 1999 and accessed in March of 2020, Henry Ford was the first person to use mass production to lower costs and then in turn increase profitability. Ford took the idea from meat packing and farming that used the assembly line to cut meat. According to History.com, published November 9th, 2009 and accessed March 2020, Ford's assembly line cut down on the time it takes to make a car from 12 hours to 2.5 hours. Without that mass production, there wouldn't be any Amazon, cheap cars, or even McDonald's. According to Williamson of AxleAddict.com, published January 25th of 2019 and accessed March 24th of 2020, Henry Ford was the first person to make a cheap car for the everyday person to be able to afford. Henry Ford mainstreamed the assembly line and mass production. Almost every company uses these processes, including Amazon and any fast food restaurant, to make and distribute goods. Now that we've talked about what Henry Ford did in his life, let's talk about the rivalry between his company, Ford, and Chevy and/or General Motors. The Ford Motor Company and Chevy had a long rivalry dating back to the start. According to Williamson of AxleAddict.com, published January 25th, 2019 and accessed March 24th, 2020, William Durant got fired from General Motors and started Chevrolet in 1911 and bought enough portion of General Motors to take over. When Durant got fired and he decided to compete with General Motors and Ford with his own cheap everyday man vehicle named Chevrolet. Also, according to Williamson of AxleAddict.com, published January 25th, 2019, and accessed March 24th, 2020, William Durant's partner in Chevrolet was Frenchman Louis Chevrolet, the famous race car driver at the time. Chevrolet competed directly with Ford, and they both sold cheap, very well made cars and started the rivalry that we know today. Ford at the time closed production to work on the new Model T that became wildly successful, but allowed Chevy to make a push and overtake Ford's big lead in the affordable car market. The moves to compete with Ford directly is what started this rivalry. There are tons of acronyms and memes that I personally despise between the two. According to Jimmy Dashmore of TorqueNews.com, published December 16th, 2019 and accessed March 31st, 2020, there are acronyms and memes like Fix or Repair Daily or Found on Road Dead, and Chevy is the best car you'll ever push, and more for both sides. All the acronyms people say aren't worth it because no one's ever going to change their mind between the two, and most people these days don't even have brand loyalty and just buy whatever they can afford that they like. So we talked about Henry Ford's life, what Ford did for the advancements in life, and his company, the Ford Motor Company's rivalry with Chevy. Henry Ford did a lot for life today by mainstreaming one of the biggest inventions that we still use today to the rivalry that still goes on in the automotive field. I ask you to think about how people in the past have made things better for us today, and how you can follow in their footsteps to make tomorrow even better. After all of that research, I can confidently say that although some cars may be more reliable than others, a vehicle in every company makes at some point in time, and everyone has their opinion on what company makes the best car. Thank you.